Well, from Silicon Valley to D.C., the Republican Speaker nominee Jim Jordan has said he will not back a plan to empower Patrick McHenry as a caretaker Speaker of the House, despite reports coming from Capitol Hill saying he would earlier today. Instead, he's going to push on with his run at the speakership, despite losing 2 rounds of voting already. It comes as both men face mounting pressure to get Congress moving again to provide funding to Israel and Ukraine and prevent a government shutdown. Rick Newman, senior reporter at Yahoo Finance, is here with more. Oof, is he a glutton for punishment or what? Or is there a chance? Is there a path somehow for Jordan?
3 blind mice, see how they run. I just want to sing a nursery rhyme. I mean, it's 3 blind mice. Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, and Kevin McCarthy. They're just like walking around or running around or scurrying around in a dead end. They're going absolutely nowhere. This is just farcical. I mean, we're all trying to figure out what's the logic behind any of this. I think the only logic is to everybody just wants to stay on the camera as long as possible. Like Jim Jordan lost. He lost once. He lost worse a second time. If he does it a third time, he's going to lose even worse. But he can't step down. I don't know what is the problem, but we do know that what has happened within the Republican Party is that the obstructionists basically gain control. The lunatics are running the asylum. And this is what it looks like when obstructionists have power. They cannot do anything at all. And meanwhile, the clock ticks.
So, Rick, give me the Rick take, though. What do you think actually plays out here, if you were to bet?
There has to be some kind of outcome. Maybe this is all part of a process that gets to this idea. That seems to be the sort of only serious way out of this at the moment, that we have an interim Speaker pro tem, which is Patrick McHenry, who actually becomes the permanent Speaker pro tem, or at least the official temporary Speaker pro tem, and then they can change the rules so that he actually is able to bring legislation to the floor and do some of the normal things that a Speaker does. But the catch here, and I think the reason that we're just seeing this folly among Republicans, is that in order to change those rules, you have to assume that the Republicans will not get all the Republicans to vote for that way out, which means you need some Democrats. And Democrats are not going to say, sure, we'll be happy to save the Republicans from embarrassing themselves any further. The Democrats are going to say, here's what we want in exchange for letting you guys off the hook here and allowing it to go forward with a temporary Speaker pro tem. And that is going to turn off more Republicans. So it is possible that we sort of get this coalition of moderates at some point, but Republicans are just in no hurry at all to save themselves from looking absolutely foolish. So this might end up coming a lot later than anybody thinks this way out, which means maybe just a couple of weeks before we hit that deadline in mid-November when the temporary spending bills expire.
And Rick, we have to talk about Biden as well here. We know he's going to be making that national address this evening following that trip he made to Israel. But he came home to some unfortunate polling by Bloomberg that found his economic ambitions, Rick, aren't convincing some very important key voters here.
Right. This was a look at voters in swing states, and their approval of Biden on the economy is now below 30%. And you can, on one hand, you can scratch your head and say, the economy is really not that bad. I mean, voters are basically saying, we think the economy is in a deep recession. And it's clearly not. I mean, we have positive economic growth. We actually have strong economic growth. The job market is strong. And the real reason for this, and what we may have forgotten, or maybe it's a little bit new, is inflation freaks people out. And now rising interest rates are freaking people out. Economists tend to look at this on historical trend lines, and, to have the 10-year Treasury at about 5%, that's very high for the last 15 years, but it's not historically high. It's almost about average on a historical basis, and the historical average for mortgage rates is about 7%. It's a little above that now. So on a historical basis, we're not really that high in terms of interest rates, but in terms of how fast we've gotten up to averages from record lows, I mean, I think this is just shell-shocking consumers. And they look at, they're hearing mortgage rates at a 20-year high, 30-year high. all these other things happening. Inflation still hasn't come back down, and they just are freaked out, and they aren't really sure why this might be Biden's fault. They just think it is.
All right. Rick Newman, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.